Hi everyone, this is Liza. Welcome back to Eliza's Bookshelf. Today I want to go over all the books that I read in August, and hopefully I can remember it all because August was kind of a whirlwind and it went by in a flash. We had our wedding and then we went to Las Vegas, but I did still read a bunch of books. Hopefully I can remember what everything is about and let you know. As always, I'm going to go over my least favorite and then talk about my most favorite. In the middle, it's kind of like, they're probably all even, but I know exactly what my least favorites are and what my top favorites are, so let's get to it. Half of the books that I read this past month, I didn't actually have a physical copy. It was on my Kindle or was on the library. So I do have 5 of the copies here, so let's go over it one by one. So first on the list is called The Future Is Yours by, I believe it's Dan Frey. It is a science fiction novel. I got it from the library, so I don't have a copy with me right now. I'll just put a picture here. But the future is yours. Basically, we have these college students who are super genius, super brainy. I forgot which college they're from, but let's say Stanford or something, right? And so they're very, very smart, and one of them tries to figure out how to deal with quantum physics and basically travel into the future. Not literally traveling, but what he figured out how to do is how to get information from 1 year in the future. He was building this machine for the longest time and he couldn't get it right, but all of a sudden he's like, what if I set a specific time frame for 1 year? And he did it. And so he's able to get information from this computer machine of his, and from that computer he's able to find information 1 year in the future, and so he sees what happens. And initially this drew me in because I was on my science fiction kick and I was thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to be like the end of the world type of things. It's going to be super exciting, fast paced. I didn't really get what I thought though, so that's just my bad. It was more so of them making this company and all the problems making that company, everyone, thinking that he wouldn't be successful, trying to find backers to this company, and then when he does get a lot of people backing him up, problems with delivering his, system, because they're trying to commercialize it and trying to make it so that everyone has this thing. I thought it was just okay. It wasn't what I was expecting, so that's why I put it a little bit lower in my list. But yeah, I think I'm just trying to look for that next awesome science fiction read, and I'm not finding it yet. So if you guys have any recommendations for me, go ahead and drop it down below. The next book was Lisa Jewell's The Family Remains, and I was doing this as a group buddy read with some people on Bookstagram, so I got this as a free copy. I don't know if it was considered an ARC because I got it like after it came out, but I've been reading a lot of Lisa Jewell's books, and for the most part I enjoy it. I don't know if it's anything special or stands out in my head like, oh my gosh, this is my favorite mystery thriller book of all time, but I generally still pick up her books because it is enjoyable. I like mystery thriller. So I read The Family Upstairs a long time ago, maybe a year or 2 ago, and I didn't remember much. This is supposed to be like the standalone sequel to it. And so before reading this, I was like, maybe I should get refreshed and read a summary. So I read the summary of the first book, The Family Upstairs, and I was like, what is going on? This is wild. There's so many characters, so many family members that I don't know. So it got kind of mixed up. So I'll let you know, if you've read the first one and you want to read this one, you definitely don't need to remember much, because when you read this, it'll refresh your memory. So I definitely was going in a little bit intimidated and thinking I'd be confused, but no, everything she wrote in here kind of refreshed my memory. And then so this is a kind of continuation about where their lives are afterwards and what they're doing, because some other shit does happen and their story has not closed just yet. So yeah, it follows this family who has a lot of trauma as younger children, and I don't know if I want to ruin much about the first book, but just know that they're trying to look for someone in this book the whole time, and then you have a side plot of a murder that popped up and they somehow tied together. And I liked how the ending wrapped up, but I'm just honestly so tired of this family. Yes, they have a lot of trauma, and yes, it's understandable that they're still weird and kind of effed up still. They're actually pretty okay considering what they went through, but I'm just so tired of one of the characters. They're just so weird. The ending of the book, I was just like, not again, can't you just leave it, you know? But yeah, it was just okay. I don't think I would continue. Like, if they still make this into an ongoing series, like the family upstairs, the family remains, the family continues to have trouble, I don't know. I don't think I would continue because I'm just over this family, honestly. But it was okay. It was kind of quick read. Yeah, nothing else to say there. Okay, so that was that. So the next one on my list, I do have a physical copy. It is Beth O'Leary's The Road Trip. So if you guys remember, or if you guys don't know, one of my favorite romance books this year is The No-Show by Beth O'Leary. That's my first book from her, and this one is my second one. I did hear a lot of not so good things about this one. Not a lot of people liked it, and for the people who read a lot of her books, this one consistently seemed to be their least favorite. So I was like, all right, lowers my standards a little bit. Let me continue reading, because it took a while for me to get started in this book. I didn't really feel connection with the two characters. I didn't really like them too much. It started out, so these two people, they dated and they broke up in a really bad way, and then they're trying to go to their friend's wedding. They bump into each other. They get into a car accident, so this person has a bum right off of her and her friends. So it's like a car full of people, and two of the people are these couples, and it's kind of awkward at first. It's told in alternating point of views, her point of view, his point of view, and also alternating timelines. So you get to see how they met, and throughout the whole book, you see their relationship form and why they broke up and how and things like that. I'm trying to remember why they broke up. Oh yes, I remember. Okay, so I mean, in the beginning, they had so much like animosity, and you kind of get snippets in the beginning of how they broke up, and it seemed very bad. And so I was like, I don't know if I want to get into it. It's not enough cuteness for me, right? As we move on, though, the characters kind of grew on me, not just these two, but like his friend and her sister and their other side friends that they're going to the wedding with. So they grew on me. I ended up liking this book more than I thought I would, with the start that I had and what people were saying. But still, it was just an okay read. The No-Show is definitely still my favorite, and I think I will still give her other books a shot, because I heard people say The Flat Share was really good, and there was another one, I'm not sure. But I might, if I pick up another one of her books, the next one will probably be The Flat Share. So the next book is called Bad Girl Reputation by Elle Kennedy. This is part of, I think it's a duology, a rom-com or romance duology following these two sisters. The first one is called Good Girl Complex. I believe that came out last year, if I'm not mistaken, but this one is about the other sister. It's called Bad Girl Reputation. It's about, wait a minute, is it about a sister? No. Totally wrong. Not about sisters at all. It's just about two random girls on this Avalon Bay. I'm sorry. Okay, so the first book was about this girl who's like super rich, and she tries to be a good girl all the time, you know, good girl complex, and she goes to this bay. She meets this guy. Okay, I remember now. This guy's brother and this new girl. That's what this other book is about. Sorry. Okay, so there's these two guy twins. I believe they're twins, or they're just brothers. I'm doing such a bad job with this wrap up. But they're related somehow. And then so the second book is about his relationship with this girl, Genevieve. And it's called Bad Girl Reputation because these two knew each other when they were younger. They started dating in high school, I believe. But they had a really bad breakup. She basically ghosted him, I think. But because they were so toxic together and got into so much trouble, getting drunk and stuff like that, right? And finally she's like, I've had enough. I can't get better with you by my side. So she just moved, and she like did not talk to him anymore. So this is her coming back to Avalon Bay because it's probably a family funeral or something. It's always family funerals that brings people back. She comes back into the town and she sees her ex-boyfriend Evan Hartley again. Obviously there was not any closure in the relationship, so things kind of start up again, and they're trying to figure out what to do, because she's like, you're still bad for me, but I still have this attraction to you. So they're trying to figure it out. I thought it was pretty cute. I like revisiting the old characters because I liked them a lot. And eventually Genevieve, the main character, did grow on me. And yeah, I don't know. I think I gave it a 3 stars. Yeah, I think I gave it a 3 stars. All these books that I've talked about so far, I think were just like 3 stars. So they were good, but not anything crazy. Which is unfortunate. I love Elle Kennedy. I definitely would read anything she spits out, honestly. So the next book, I honestly don't know where I put it. There's like so many books here, and I did not really prepare for filming today because today's really busy. I had work. I'm gonna have another doctor session later, and I'm gonna get my hair cut. So I have so many things going on today. So I honestly was not preparing to do a video, but I was like, I'm going to Hawaii next week with my family. Then I don't know when I'll have to make a video. But yeah, so I'm not really prepared today. Sorry about that. But there's a book called All Grown Up. It was on my TBR list for August, and I actually got to some books on my TBR, so I'm excited. Anyways, All Grown Up, I've had this book on Book of the Month since, I don't know, 2017. I just never got to it, but I'm glad I finally read it because I actually really liked it. The writing style is a little bit different. It's like, you know the dialogue, it's not set in different paragraphs, it's just in paragraph form. So that was interesting to read, but I actually liked it. Not a lot of people would, because I feel like if you see large paragraphs on a page, it's hard to get through, but I feel like it flowed very nicely. Anyways, it's about this girl named Andrea, and from what I read on the synopsis, I thought it was going to be like this messy, chaotic girl who doesn't really get along with her family, or maybe she does, but she's like the black sheep of the family. But there's this like tragedy or this family illness in a niece of hers that kind of brings the family together. So I thought it was going to be along those lines. And yes, we did get some of that, but it was a lot of snippets of her life and how she's navigating her relationships with guys, and her relationships with her family and her father, who was alcoholic and passed away. So it's not even like a linear timeline either. Oh, this was back then, this was now, this was this year. It kind of goes back and forth, and you figure out which part of her life it is based on what she's talking about. It didn't bother me though, because I like these little snippets in her life. It's like, oh, story about my friend going to her wedding, story about my friend having a baby, story about my dating life here. And so it was really cool. Little snippets here and there you see about her brother's relationship with his wife and their daughter, who is basically terminally ill, had some sort of heart problem in the beginning and then had mini strokes, and now is basically like a little vegetable. It was really sad at some points, but it wasn't terribly sad because you didn't delve into so much of their emotions. It was just like, oh, I need to visit my niece, but I don't really want to because it's sad. So it was weird. It wasn't really until the ending that I did cry, because the situation in its own is very sad. Anyway, so I liked the book. It just was not what I was expecting. I thought it was just going to be more focused around the niece, but it was just focused around her life and how messy it is and how she wants to be happy, but she doesn't feel like what the society's mold of happiness, she doesn't feel like that is what's going to make her happy. The classic get married, have children, things like that. She's like, I don't even know if I want to get married. She's kind of struggling with that, and like the way she thinks about her relationships with her friends and their families is kind of funny to read, because I'm like, damn, she's kind of effed up. She's like, oh, my friend is having a baby, that's it, I'm not gonna be friends with her anymore because her life is different. But I feel like it shouldn't always be like that. I have friends who are not on the same path as I am too, but we're still friends and we talk about whatever we talk about. So that was kind of sad, or kind of weird to read about hers. But I'm glad I read it. I actually really enjoyed it. The next one is Send For Me. So I have the book here, and it is a World War II historical fiction book, and World War II historical fiction is my favorite. This is a little bit on the shorter side as well. It was one of my Book of the Month picks for last year, I believe. I don't know where they say the date anymore. I guess they don't tell me the date anymore of when I got it. Maybe it's in the front. I'm sure it's in the front. No, it's not. Anyways, I got it sometime within the last year, I think. And it's spanning different generations. You have the story about this one family who grew up in Germany. You have her family later on who lives in the United States, and how they're dealing with it. Not as much as the family in Germany though. So we're talking more so in the past, but it wasn't as sad or as engaging into the World War II aspect as much as I thought, or as much as I'd like in my World War II historical fiction books, but I still liked it. It was something new and different. The reason why I liked it is because they show these families as such normal families. Like, oh, we're going to the bakery. This is where I work all day. Oh, I have this boyfriend who cheated on me. That sucks. I'm heartbroken. I'm finding another lover, right? And so they portray these families as overall ordinary families, but in the background you can see certain things already changing. It's like, oh, I can't go to the pool, I can't swim at the neighborhood pool anymore. Oh, interesting. It kind of like it was like small little changes in their lives that you notice is gonna have a big impact globally, but for them it was just like normal day-to-day things. And it's like, oh my gosh, I can't go swimming now. Oh, my friend said they can't be friends with me anymore, you know? Oh, my job kind of fired me and I have to find another place safe. So it was kind of very subtle changes, but you can see how vastly their lives were impacted, because one part of the family has to move to, they actually made it to America. They're taking care of their family there, but they have their parents over here in Germany still. And it's overall pretty sad, because it's actually kind of based on a true story with the author, because the author found kind of letters from their ancestors that were sent to her grandmother, I believe. And so based on those letters, she finally wrote this story. So I liked it. Give it a try if you like World War II historical fiction. And even if you don't, give it a try if you like generational storylines and how the past has affected the future or the present, you know. Anyways, I'm babbling. I liked it. Next one is It Ends With Us. I have it here somewhere. So the next one is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. And this is a reread for me because Colleen Hoover is getting like a big bump because of Book Talk and Bookstagram and stuff like that. So she's getting a lot of her books having more attention nowadays. And I've always been like a Colleen Hoover fan. It Ends With Us, Ugly Love, those are kind of the first books that got me into romance. But since then I've read so many more romance books. I still read her books all the time. Like whatever she puts out, I buy and I read. I think Heartbones was one that I did not like recently, but all the other new ones that she has written, I loved. Reminders of Him. What else? All Your Perfects is really good. Anyway, so whenever people ask me about book recommendations, I say Colleen Hoover, but even though It Ends With Us is like a recommendation, I want to make sure that I read it and I still like it, because who knows, right? And so I reread it this past month and I still like it. It just wasn't like, boom, wow, that was amazing, right? It was just like your typical. But the thing with Colleen Hoover is that she writes in such a way that puts so much heart into it, and it really tugs at your heartstrings, and it makes me cry. It makes me cry all the time. Yes, I cried in this one again. And it's a lot about domestic abuse and where and how to stop or when to stop, because this main character, I forgot her name, but she grew up in a family where she saw a lot of abuse in her mom and dad, and it affected her a lot as she grew up, because we actually start off with her at her father's funeral, and she is giving the eulogy, and her eulogy is like, let me tell you all the things that was great about my father. And then she just blinked out. But she actually did not blink out. It was purposely silence, because she's like, I cannot tell you one good thing about my father because he sucked ass. Anyways, so you get a little bit about her history, and then you go in with her like new relationship and stuff like that, and then a flashback to her past relationship with this guy named Atlas. Anyway, so it's a lot about domestic violence, domestic abuse, and It Ends With Us. You don't know who it's going to end with, but do you know that the second book is coming out called It Starts With Us or something like that? And so it's the kind of continuation to see how her life is after this book. So I'm not going to say too much else about it, because if you haven't read it, read it. Because the second book comes out and I'm really excited about it. Let's see what else is next. Oh, so my top 3 books now. I love these top books so much. I think I gave them all 5 stars. But let's get started. So, La Villa by Rachel Hawkins. I've only read her other book, The Wife Upstairs, and she had a second book, The Reckless Girls, and now this third book called La Villa. And I don't know, I think this actually comes out in the new year, and I got an advance reader's copy on NetGalley. So I read it. I wasn't expecting anything crazy, but I loved it. And so I'm trying to go back and read her other book as well, The Reckless Girls. Anyway, so La Villa. Ooh, where do I even start? I don't want to like do a full synopsis of everything, but basically we have this villa, right, in Italy, and then you have people in the past, and then you have this people in the present day, and they kind of get connected somehow. So the people in the present day, we have like this writer, two best friends actually, and one of them is a really good writer, one of them is super famous and wrote this, I don't know, more like a biography type of book and got famous that way. They're besties, but they're kind of like frenemies besties somehow. Anyway, so she invites this writer to go with her to the villa to kind of like reconnect, and they always talked about writing a book together, but they never did. So yeah, she invites her to this villa to hang out, and then you see the history of the villa with this group of friends in the past. And so you follow them. There's like a musician, a couple of musicians, also a writer, a singer. I don't know, it's like a hodgepodge group of friends and family. Two of them are sisters, I believe, but they're like stepsisters or half sister. And so they kind of have like this competition going on as well, if I remember. Anyways, someone dies back then, and you kind of don't really know what happened until later on in the book, but also the world itself don't know really what happened back then. And in the present day, that writer is finding clues around the house, trying to figure out exactly what happened. And I guess you'll see if she actually figured out what happened. But yes, the villa, I remember liking the wife upstairs, but not so much that I would be like automatically buying every one of this author's books, right? And so I kind of skipped the Reckless Girls after reading the synopsis. I was like, it's all right, it sounds okay. And then the villa, I read that and I loved it so much. And the thing is, Rachel Hawkins just allows you to be absorbed in these people's lives, and you just care everything about what goes on, what they did. You just care about these characters. And so I'm actually gonna pick up The Reckless Girls soon, and hopefully I like that. Rachel Hawkins may be one of my auto-buy mystery thriller authors now, along with Riley Sager. I guess that's it. Who else is my auto-buy mystery thriller? I'm sure there's more. Ruth Ware might be up there. But anyways, speaking of, my next one is The It Girl. So Ruth Ware, The It Girl, I rated this one 5 stars as well. This is actually only my second book by Ruth Ware, even though I have multiple copies of her books downstairs. I have, what is it? Into the Woods or something like that. And then I have The Turn of the Key. So I have a couple of her books. Recently, I've been reading more of her newer works. So I read this one, I read One by One, and both of them I liked. The It Girl. It's like a college campusy type of murder mystery. So we have back then this group of friends and this It Girl. So the It Girl meaning she just draws everyone into her orbit. She's like super friendly, or maybe sometimes not, but you want to be on her good side. Anyway, so she dies a long time ago. Fast forward to the future or the present day, we have a couple who they're married. I think they have a baby on the way. Yes, they have a baby on the way. And the murderer who is in jail ends up dying, and they're like, oh, do I feel relieved? No, because this journalist comes in and he's like, there are some discrepancies. I don't think this was actually the killer. I think the killer is still out there. And so they're trying to figure out who did it. So in the present day, the girl in the couple is trying to figure out what exactly happened. So she's doing a lot of the investigating. The husband in the couple is not really doing so much. He's more so of like, let's put it to rest, you know, we're having our baby, let's continue our lives, let's just put it in the past. And so it's like, why don't you want to know what happened? Are you the murderer? Are you very suspicious? I don't know. So it's really cool because if you like mystery thriller on campus, school type of settings, this is it for you. This is the It Girl for you. I really liked it. I think after reading One by One and The It Girl by Ruth Ware, I'm definitely gonna catch her other backlist books because they're pretty good. But yes, number one on my August reads is Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And I read Malibu Rising either earlier this year or last year. I don't quite remember. I think it's this year actually. I read Malibu Rising and it turned out to be like my favorite book from her, if not the favoriteest book this year. And so I was like, nothing's gonna top that. I'll still read all of your books, Taylor Jenkins Reid, but I don't think anything will beat Malibu Rising. I read Carrie Soto and boy was I proven wrong. I liked it even more. So Carrie Soto, if you read Malibu Rising, you'll know that Carrie Soto is a character from that book. If you haven't read Malibu Rising, Carrie Soto is like a minor character from the first book. So it's not anything spoiling you or anything like that, but for the longest time, I was like, who is Carrie Soto? I don't remember her from Malibu Rising, you know, I don't know who she is. And when I was reading the book, I was still trying to figure out who it was. And they, you know, there's a lot of clues of who she could have been, but I did not know until they like literally said the characters that she was associated with in the first book, and I was like, oh, it's her. So you don't get to hear much about her in the first book, but it's nice to have everything kind of connect together, because it just reminds me of Malibu Rising, and such a wonderful book it is. Anyways, she also had like a tiny nod to Daily Jones and the Six in the book too, if you can find it. But Carrie Soto, it's about this woman who's like, has a famous, I don't know if he's famous, but she has this father who's a professional tennis player. So throughout her whole life, she's been trained to like be the best tennis player. And so that's what she was doing her whole life, basically, since she was like a little girl into her teens, into her 20s. And she had an injury when she was older, and she like couldn't play again. It wasn't the same. So she's like, that's it, I'm retiring. But the book starts off with her seeing this younger, I don't know if she's that young, but she's younger than Carrie Soto. She's gonna beat her record for the most Grand Slams won or whatever, right? And Carrie Soto's like, oh hell no. I'm gonna come back from retirement, I'm gonna train, get back to where I was, and I'm gonna beat her so that she can't take my record. And so the whole time, I mean, maybe like part of the book you read about how she grew up and how she got to be such a hard worker, what molded her like family tragedy and stuff like that. And then you get to see her finally like competing in these tournaments. I don't know if they're called tournaments. I'm not a tennis player, sorry. But she competes, and there's a lot of like struggles, and she forms sort of other relationships. It's cool to see her as a woman, not only a woman, but like a non-white woman in this world, right? Of competing, of having to not only compete and win, but also being a specific type of person so that everyone can like you, right? It's so hard to be a woman and well liked, I think. But for her, she's just like, I just want to fight and win. And people don't really like her attitude sometimes. So it's cool to see that. It's really interesting to see her relationships with other players, as well as like this other guy who she meets and trains with. But yeah, I love this so much. If you're not a big tennis player, it doesn't matter. This book is just so fast paced, and you want to know exactly what happens next. And I think the chapters are relatively short, so it's really easy to fly through. And honestly, after reading this book, I was telling my husband, I was like, we need to get into tennis. We need to get our kids into tennis. I want to play tennis. I grew up playing badminton, so it's like a lot different. You use your wrist more so, you know, you have a birdie instead of a tennis ball. So it's really different, but now I want to get into tennis. And we're honestly trying to get my son into like this tennis group lesson thing. So yes, please read it. I love it. I know Taylor Jenkins Reid has a lot of like backlash because of her being a white woman and writing a lot about other ethnicities. And so there's that. Keep that in mind too. But I just feel like Carrie Soto is back is such a good story to read about. Yeah, that's my number one read, and I'm so happy that I got a copy of it through NetGalley, but I'm definitely going to get my physical copy in soon because I loved it so much. But yeah, that is my August wrap up. I feel like it ran so long, partly maybe because I didn't prepare for this, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed my August wrap up. September is going to be wild too because I already have a big TBR. But yeah, thank you again for joining me and sticking around. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!